maintain the peace, in spite of the fact that there were some elements who, in spite of the efforts of the security agencies, conducted themselves in a way that led to violence, and unfortunately, some of our countrymen and women lost their life in the process. Like President Muhammadu Buhari said yesterday, we join him in commiserating with the families of those who lost their life, and we hope and pray that God will grant their loved ones the fortitude to bear the loss. But I also believe that government must do everything possible to identify those who are behind those killings and bring them to justice. Each time, hoodlums and ballot box snatchers maim and kill in trying to distort the will of the Nigerian people, and they go away without anybody being prosecuted or jailed. The fear of impunity is threatened, and the fear of the rule of law is weakened. I believe now that the president has been sworn in, he now has a duty to call on the Inspector General of Police and indeed all the security agencies to identify all those behind those killings. No Nigeria deserves to die just because he wanted to go and vote. I have already done that before, but we want to reaffirm it, that we of the All Progressive Congress, we congratulate our candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari, for the renewed mandate. I believe that what happened last Saturday was a referendum between a man of integrity and a man of doubtful integrity. And Nigerians have resolved the issue satisfactorily, and we believe Nigerians have spoken. They spoke the mind of the people of Nigeria. However, yesterday, the PDP candidate who lost and who was a signatory to peace accord and who went into this race knowing fully well that Nigeria cannot possibly elect two presidents, only one president will emerge. Having suffered defeat, which I believe he deserved, he went on to say that he rejected the result and adduced a very laughable argument as a basis for his decision. But I have found out that in this country, when you recycle lie over and over and over, so people begin to think that there is truth in it. The conventional wisdom is that there is no smoke without fire. But in Nigeria politics, there can be huge smoke, and yet there is no fire at all. Now, I want to speak to some facts as we know them, and I challenge you as members of the media to cross-check from your own records as a way of enabling yourselves to debunk effortlessly the falsehood that Atiku Abubakar tried to parrot yesterday in order to discredit what otherwise represent a very, very peaceful election in spite of those isolated incidents. And I'm happy that the international community, as well as the Nigeria observers, are unanimous that this election, and no election anywhere in the world, is perfect. We have people in some parts of the Western world who are even leaders of democracy, who are still conducting a query into how their own last election was conducted. So it's not about whether this election was perfect. It is whether it is substantially free and fair, and whether indeed it represents the will of the Nigerian people. I am convinced, as INEC has announced, that this election reflects the will of the Nigerian people, and that for us is something for which we beat our chest, and we congratulate the great people of Nigeria. Atiku Abubakar argued that he described what he calls statistical impossibilities. And he claimed that he has had the two zones where he is strongest, that votes in those areas were smaller and that the margin of victory was also small. Now, he specifically referred to the South-South and the Southeast. I want to refresh the mind of Nigerians and indeed all those who are interested by just rolling out the voting pattern since 1999, the number of votes that PDP that were casted or allegedly casted in favor of PDP. In 1999, which was the election, fourth general election, conducted by the military government under the leadership of His Excellency General Abubakar Abdul-Salam, President Obasanjo won that election with 18.7 million votes. Remember, this election was conducted under the watch of the military government. But by 2003, when PDP assumed full incumbency, and when President Obasanjo began to describe general elections as a do or die, and when Atiku Abubakar was the vice president to President Olusegun Obasanjo, they catapulted their votes from 18.7 million to 24.4 million. This cannot be explained whether by reasons of population growth or even popularity of the party. If we recall the feelings of Nigerians, I just reviewing editorials in various Nigerian newspapers. In 2007, incidentally, that was an election in which I also participated at the level of state governorship in Edo State. You all recall the massive rigging of that election. And PDP was able to increase their numbers from 2.4 million in 2003 to 24.4 million in 2003 to 24.6 million in 2007. As I'm sure many of you will recall, various electoral tribunals set up to review the outcome of those elections by those who disputed the elections. In many states, elections were nullified by election petition tribunal. And in my own case, I'm one of the very few candidates who went to court and who got my mandate reviewed, and my mandate was restored through the court of law after PDP had ruthlessly rigged me out. You know, Edo used to play host to perhaps one of the most, will I say, infamous or famous godfathers. And I will leave it at that. In 2011, PDP scored 22.5 million votes. But by 2015, when the card reader was introduced, because between 1999 and 2015, INEC relied on manual voting and manual accreditation. Those were the days in which PDP philosophy was rig them out and let them go to court. But with the introduction of card readers, which most parts of the country were obliged to use, PDP fortune dropped to 12.8 million. Yes, PDP votes dropped to 12.8 million. And of course, you recall that even at that, there were different result sheets from Delta State. They were revised 3 times. I'm sure you have not forgotten that the result from Rivers State were revised upward over and over, to the extent that the professor who was the returning officer was unable to read those figures at the collation center in Abuja. However, because the card reader was substantially used in most parts of the country, PDP suffered a huge loss, and their votes dropped to 12.8 million. And of course, in 2019, which is the correct one, PDP scored 11.1 million votes, again courtesy of the card reader. Now let us look at Buhari's scorecard. President Muhammadu Buhari, as the candidate of the CPC, a state that only had one state government, and that was Nasarawa State. President Muhammadu Buhari scored in 2011 12.2 million votes. And with the alliance formed by APC, CPC, no, alliance by ACN, CPC, AMPP, and a part of ABGA, and later reinforced by what was then referred to as the new PDP. We contested the election on APC platform, and President Muhammadu Buhari scored in 2015 15.4 million votes, again courtesy of the card reader, which did not allow people to write results as they deemed fit. Now, in 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari got fewer votes than he got in 2015. And from INEC figures, we secured 50.2 million votes. So when Atiku Abubakar, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, talks about statistical impossibilities, I don't want to call him a poor student of statistics. But talking about statistical impossibilities, I invite you to reflect on the total number of new registered voters. Don't forget that the whole idea of periodic review of or reopening of voter registration is essentially meant to enable those who have become 80 years and above between the past election and the last one. And everybody knows that the average population growth rate in Nigeria is averaging 3%, plus minus. If that is the average population growth rate, how do we explain that under the renewed registration exercise conducted by INEC, it is revealing how the number of people that went to register, until today, no one has explained that paradox. That whereas the average population growth rate is around 3%, in the South-South, the newly registered voters were average 25% in South-South. In Southeast, it averaged about 36%. In Northwest, it averaged about 26%. And Northeast, it averaged about 28 or 29%. Now, what is the explanation for that? We all know that the whole essence of renewing voter registration is to enable younger people who have become 18 to register. So are we suggesting that Nigeria population has increased by as much as 25%, or in the case of Southeast, as much as 36%? Obviously, there were calculated attempts in some part of the country for people to do multiple registration and to have the advantage of so many, which is why you have so many PVC cards that, as we speak, have not been collected. And if reports from security agencies are anything to go by, there are quite a number of persons who have been caught with hundreds or sometimes thousands of PVCs in the hands of one individual. So this explains why, even when you report, as you have often done, massive turnout in our elections, and this last election, everybody agreed that the turnout was huge. Yet, when you compare the final results, add everybody together, vote, however people voted, the total number of those who participated in the election, you will find that they average around 30%